Hello, everybody. Dr. Minnow here. A little different subject matter today, away from the breaking news, but a video I've been wanting to make for, I don't know, years maybe. Going back to my philosophical roots and some of my engineering background. But today's topic is going to be math is not an exact science. Okay, math, geometry, calculus, analytical geometry, physics, chemistry, all the subject matter, the sciences that deal with mathematics in some form or another, however it's called, is not an exact science. And the whole scientific community and most of the general public rely on scientific data to carry out their daily lives, to function in their daily lives, to exist in their daily lives. And we're doing all of this with a non-exact type of science. How can math be an exact science when it has terms in it like infinity, approaching zero, constants? The constant of pi goes on forever. The concept of approaching zero, that we never actually get to approach zero because it's infinite, this approaching zero. The idea of negative numbers, a idea of nothingness, anything left of center, left of zero. How can all this be attributed to an exact science when just the terms that describe its capabilities are undefined in itself? Okay, math only applies to this Earth rotating around the sun and the sun rotating around us. Einstein says it really doesn't matter at which perspective you make the calculations, they're pretty much going to be the same. That math only applies to this particular orbital revolutions of this particular rock in this particular spatial area around this particular sun. I kind of laugh a lot when I watch Star Trek and some of these other space movies when they deal with time. Oh, it's 2 hours. Oh, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. This because it only applies to our Earth here. Now, I go back in the history of math and the concept of zero. A lot of cultures are claiming they invented the concept of zero. I have always thought it to be generated around that Babylon area, around the Muhammad days, 300 years after Christ, as putting it into a calendar perspective. But there's other documents out there that put the concept of zero. Now, the concept of zero is a fascinating, as a placeholder, the concept of zero as a placeholder is a fascinating concept because, once again, it can go infinite. You can keep placing zeros there. Our math, like I said, goes infinite to the infinity, to the approaching zero. Okay, but we are operating on this particular level here where our math that we deal with on a daily basis, our calculations on a daily basis, deal with this level of perception in our quantum reality and not much above or below it. Just the octaves that we can hear, the certain octaves, the certain light frequency perspectives, basically the colors of the rainbows and the 7 colors that we can actually see. And our math is only related to this particular level of consciousness. When there is so much other levels, as I said, approaching zero and to the infinite level, that their reality is their own and ours is our own in our perspective arena. In our math that we apply is only good in our specific arena. Now, given math, they say, can apply to all levels of our consciousness and existence in the world. Also, on a side note, sidebar, math is the only language that is understood worldwide. It is the only common language in the world. It is the only language that everybody can understand, and it has its own numbers system. It has its own shapes that most people in the world understand. It is the only international language. And of course, math is obviously applied to the sciences, the engineering field. These guys are great mathematicians. But even today, scientists have been sold out. Scientists aren't scientists for the people anymore. Scientists are paid and funded and corrupted by the fascist corporate people who are paying their salaries and their wages. Science has lost its morals, has lost its ethics. It is no longer a utilitarian principle. It is a principle of how much money a particular corporation can make, how much you can bribe certain areas of the engineering and the scientific community to say certain things in certain areas in certain ways to have you believe a certain way. Because for every proof, there's a group of scientists that can be bought off to disprove it. The whole internet is inundated with false science paid for by corporate fascist greedy bastards. And we all believe this stuff. We all believe that what these scientists are telling us. No, science lost it. Science has turned into an immoral, unethical form of study. It's not like what it used to be. It's not for the good of mankind. We should throw away science because it's not working for the betterment of mankind. Oh, the doctors are going to say, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. We solve all these diseases and this and that and this and that. Yeah, but the other side of science, through science, we created more deaths, more mutilations, a depopulation agenda through science, through biological warfare, chemical warfare. The whole atom, the whole nuclear thing is just bonkers crazy. I did a video about nuclear power. Do you people understand? The only reason why we have nuclear power is only to boil water? Is this the best way, the most efficient way we could possibly think of to boil water? That's all we use nuclear power for, to boil water. How crazy. Watch my video on this. It's not popular out there because it's true. This video is not going to be popular out there because it's thought provoking. It's going to make you think about things. It's going to make you think about your life and your everyday existence and how you interact. Well, some of my earlier education explain why I can pick on scientists and engineering. Well, I started out, my first 72 units in college was under electrical, then chemical engineering. And after 72 units, I did not like the way they were teaching it. Plus, I was working full-time at night, swing shift, night shift work, going to school during the daytime, putting myself through school. But I didn't like the way they were teaching it because they were just rushing through these physics problems. This was back in the days where we were not allowed to use calculators. We were only allowed to use calculators if we passed a slide rule proficiency test. Yes, I'm dating myself. Slide rules in engineering classwork. Oh my God. And it's just amazing back then where all of these Asians were just so smart and they could just whip out these problems. And one physics problem takes you 2-3 hours to work out. Anyway, like I said, I did not like the way they were teaching it, all they were doing. And when you go to class the next day, they assign you a dozen problems. You go back, the teacher says, okay, who got these problems? Who didn't get these problems? So on and so forth. Okay, the people who got these problems correct, go work them on the board. So they're up there working on the board. You're copying it down. The ones who didn't get the problems are copying it down. And that's it. No explanation whatsoever. Even in the lab, they rush through the labs. Where you want to grab a concept. You want to understand what you are doing in the lab. And you just rush through this stuff. Anyway, I didn't like the way they were teaching it. And I sat in on a philosophy class. And it's just amazing how, what do they call philosophy? Metaphysics. Yes, meta, M-E-T-A. Metaphysics is above physics. And I said, this is the subject. This is what higher education is all about. It's philosophy. Is that next level above engineering, science, physics, calculus, analytical geometry, all that stuff. It is the next level above that, and understanding where all that stuff comes from, asking the right questions to get to the right answers. Philosophy, from engineering to philosophy. What a mixed up background, but it's a good background, because I've always said to myself, if you wanted to become more godliness, to be more like God, what are the two areas on this earth that you need to have the ultimate, complete knowledge of? One, all knowledge of the physical world, which is basic chemistry, organic type chemistry, all knowledge of the physical world, and all knowledge of the unphysical world, the metaphysical world, the above the physics, the thinking process. Okay, for a person to grasp both these concepts and be well educated in both of these areas, the physical and the non-physical world, the physical and the metaphysical world, this is what would make anybody more godlike, more omnipotent, more intelligent, supreme, all-knowing. So this is kind of where my background is and how I kind of ended up in philosophy. And now I just ask the questions, bring up these issues as I'm doing in this video and many videos I did. And it's up to science to prove me right or wrong. I'm not here to prove my points. I could make these full-length documentaries. I don't have the budget to do all that stuff, and I don't have the funding to do all this stuff. These are real simple, self-produced, self-functioning type of videos to promote this line of thinking, to promote peace around the world, to promote awareness, to wake the sheeple up. I have a wide variety of videos on multiple subjects, and if you get through my channel, you'll understand me more rather than just watching these Caitlyn Jenner or this Hillary Clinton on deathbed. These crazy other videos that I do for shits and grins and for fun, tongue-in-cheek. But then again, it's what people like to see, it's what people like to hear, and hopefully the ultimate objective is to bring attentions that they could stumble across my other videos. Okay, back to math. Enough of this little sidebar here. Okay, going back to math again as not being an exact science. Just as human behavior is not an exact science, it's hard to apply mathematical concepts to human behavior. We try through demographics, through statistics, through surveys. That's our closest way to quantify human behavior. But I'm working on a theory, this whole quantum theory. I'm applying it to social theory, to social interaction. I got a good handle on it. It's kind of hard to put in words where everybody's going to understand me, but a lot of it deals with social interaction. And once again, on this particular level that we're operating on in our conscious existence, and how we interact with people and what we perceive and the messages that we perceive, because once again, even through human interaction, just as there's an infinity and approaching zero, so does human interaction have its unlimitedness capabilities. And one aspect of it is our interaction, our actions that we exert on the outside in the physical world. Some of this comes from deep DNA encoded messages in our existence, in our DNA structure. That our human reaction, our human behavior, not only comes from what we learned after we were born, but even goes back into our instinctual levels hundreds and thousands of years ago. Okay, it goes back that far. Just as quantum mechanics, quantum theory can expand all realms of existence, it goes infinitely small. And even as we go infinitely small with the Hadron Collider, the CERN Collider, the accelerator, the particle accelerators, and we keep busting these atoms up and busting these atoms up, and we keep finding more and more even smaller particles. That's just adding that zero. That's just adding another zero, another placeholder, another placeholder. Placeholders can go to an infinite level. infinite to infinity, and the infinite level of always approaching that nothingness, because we can never approach nothingness. We can never approach zero. It's a concept that's unrealistic, just as infinity is unrealistic. Mathematics is unrealistic. And it has to be, like I've always said, with these particular terms in the language. But we deal with it on a daily basis. It's what gets us through our daily lives. It's what makes our cars motor. It's what makes us birds' wings flap. It's what makes everything that we perceive in our perceptual world. A lot of it has to do with the calculations of mathematics. Even in science, even in geometry, what's all the geometry? Theorems, postulates. All of science is a book of open theories. It's a continuous, infinite book of open theories, but we settle on what we can understand in our own existence, in our own perceptual existence. And our sad little feeble minds will believe anything anybody tells us. If the news or sciences tells us that this is the way it is because we proved it through a process of mathematics, using numbers to confirm basically what has always existed in all of nature and all the existence of the world, a new way of interpreting something that has already existed. But we're feeble little minded sheeple, and we'll believe anything anybody tells us. And it's such a shame because unfortunately it takes you 50, 60 years to realize that most of the bullshit that they told you growing up and through your life and through education and through your parents was all bullshit. You know, it's too bad that when you finally realize this crap, you're too old to do anything about it, or nobody cares to listen to people with life experiences. They only listen to these talking head, beautiful hair, so-called reporters on the mainstream media, and they're only regurgitating what they've been told to say and do. You know, we'll believe anything that anybody tells us, from our parents to our government. I did a great video on myth and lies from parents to your government. It's going nowhere. You know, these are important stuff. This is so important stuff. So I kind of respect David Icke in his line of thought and thinking about realizing our reality, that what we're being told, you have to doubt, you have to question authority. You have to. If not, then you're going to be a nice little sheeple. You're going to be subjected to marketing meiosis. You're going to be subjected to the brainwashing of Edward Bernays, the corporate fascist brainwashing, and you believe anything they tell you. Because they tell you that we're going to make your life simple and complete and more relaxing and more profitable and more enjoyable. But it's not true. It doesn't happen. If all those corporate claims were true, why are we in this such a fantastic mess with wars, with economic collapse? And David Icke is got it pinpoint pretty good, and he follows this quantum theory. I've been getting into it a lot, and it's just basically looking past of what's being presented to you, looking above, beyond what is physically being presented. And if the scientists and the media is saying, hey, math is it, math is exact, you have to believe math that proves things, well, you got to take all that with a grain of salt, because it doesn't always prove things. It proves things to a convincing level that you're satisfied, but you got to take all that with a grain of salt. Okay, Dr. Minnow, food for thought, going back to some more philosophical roots. And unfortunately, all of my BS videos seem to be popular. You know, the ones people like to watch. But, you know, this is the whole reason why I started this channel out, is to espouse all of my philosophical beliefs, my social theories. And as you can see from the very beginning of starting this channel, I started out that way. Then I kind of got off into more journalistic, investigative reporting and reporting general news around the world, because that is just so freaking fascinating. Dr. Minnow from Costa Rica. Costa Rica. Let me help you relocate yourself or your family, help you find a nice home, a lot, some land to self-sustain you and your family with plenty of water and plenty of food in the jungle. Respond to the email that you see here and we'll be glad to help you out.